finding yourself in the middle of a solid white cloud, so dense that it is almost impossible to distinguish anything at arm's length. You often ask yourself the question, why did such a thick fog form? Why is it white in color? And you begin to think about how long this phenomenon usually lasts, and also why any fog dissipates. Fogs form during the accumulation of droplets or ice crystals in the air in the lower layers of the atmosphere, which causes a cloud-like pall to form along the Earth's surface, limiting visibility so much that space is not visible beyond 1 kilometer, and in some cases objects become difficult to distinguish already at a distance of several meters. It is not difficult to answer why this phenomenon occurs. It is due either to the evaporation of water from a warm surface into cold air, or to the cooling of warm air streams saturated with moisture. For example, the appearance of terrestrial clouds can often be observed in the evening or in the morning after the temperature of the soil and vegetation drops. The lower layers of the atmosphere cool down so much that they begin to release excess moisture in the form of water droplets. Fog is an atmospheric phenomenon, an accumulation of water in the air formed by the smallest water particles at air temperatures above -10 C. Water droplets from -10 to -15 C. A mixture of water droplets and ice crystals at temperatures below -15 C. Ice crystals sparkling in the sunlight or in the light of the moon and lanterns. Please like this video and subscribe to this new channel, and you will see many more interesting and useful things. The continuous duration of fog is usually from several hours to several days. Especially during the cold season, fogs interfere with the normal operation of all modes of transport, so fog forecasting is of great practical importance. Fog can be classified as colloidal solutions, since it can be considered an aerosol with a liquid base. Fog is a continuous fog with horizontal visibility at a level of 2 meters less than 1,000 meters, sufficiently developed vertically, so that it is impossible to determine the state of the sky. It is more often observed in the evening, at night and in the morning, but it can also be observed during the day, especially in the cold half of the year with an increase in air temperature. An icy fog is also noted, which is observed at air temperatures below 10-15 C and consisting of ice crystals sparkling in the sunlight or in the light of the moon and lanterns. According to the method of occurrence, fogs are divided into two types. Cooling mists are formed due to condensation of water vapor when the air cools below the dew point, and evaporation mists are vapors from a warmer evaporating surface into cold air over reservoirs and wetland areas. In addition, fogs differ in synoptic conditions of formation: intramassic, formed in homogeneous air masses, and frontal, formed on the borders of atmospheric fronts. Fog is a common natural phenomenon that makes the air opaque as a result of its saturation with water vapor contaminated with various impurities in the form of dust, smoke, soot, and more. Fog forms as follows. First, water evaporates and then enters the cold air. Another option is the appearance of fog when the humid air begins to cool sharply due to a decrease in temperature. After the warm, humid air begins to cool sharply, the steam formed in it near the surface of the Earth condenses into water droplets, which form a ground cloud. Relative humidity in foggy weather ranges from 85% to 100%, but in severe frosts, fog can also form in industrial cities, railway stations, and airfields, even at low humidity levels. This occurs as a result of condensation of water vapor generated from car exhaust, from emissions of combustion elements into the atmosphere through the chimneys of private homes, garages, and industrial enterprises. Another example, this time in winter, there is fog over a river, lake, or other body of water, on the ice of which an ice hole has formed. In frosts, there is always a veil over it, creeping over the water surface. This happens because the temperature of the water during frost is warmer than the surrounding ice, and the air in contact with it. After the warm air mixes with the cold air currents, it begins to cool, releasing steam and forming a cloud near the surface of the Earth. Therefore, fog over the river and other bodies of water is usually stable and long-lasting. Cold and warm air currents and currents constantly mix here. The answer to the question of why this phenomenon happens in different colors is simple. Smaller droplets scatter short blue rays better, whereas in dense terrestrial clouds, larger droplets and light waves scatter all rays equally, regardless of their length. Fogs are also common during frosts, and the phenomenon can be seen even when humidity does not exceed 50%. They can usually be observed in cities, especially at railway and bus stations, where the veil is formed by steam that appears during fuel combustion and is released into the air through chimneys and exhaust pipes. terrestrial clouds do not always originate solely from nature. A large number of mists occur in cities, and therefore they consist not only of droplets and dust, but also smoke and soot that are emitted by factories or chimneys, or arise after or during fires when forests, peat or steppe are burning. The duration of this phenomenon varies and can range from half an hour to several days. The main reason why any fog dissipates is the warming of the air. Since the veil forms near the surface, after the sun's rays warm it up, the air heats up, as a result of which the droplets evaporate and turn into steam. The higher above the Earth's surface, the less the fog dissipates. As the air temperature in the upper atmosphere begins to drop again, the steam transforms into water droplets and forms clouds. More than 38,700 traffic accidents occur annually due to fog. Fog is one of the main weather factors that can create dangerous driving conditions and lead to numerous traffic accidents every year. The main reason for accidents in fog conditions is that the speed is too high for these conditions. It is necessary to be able to stop within sight. If this is not possible, by the time you notice the danger, it may be too late to avoid a collision. Fog is deservedly considered one of the most dangerous natural phenomena. Dozens of cars are involved in an accident during fog. So, what you need to know and what you need to remember when driving in fog. Sometimes the fog is so thick that the visibility of the road decreases to several tens of meters. Therefore, it is necessary to slow down in order to be able to control traffic. The driver must be ready to stop within the visible area. In such conditions, the speed should not exceed half the visibility distance in meters. For example, when visibility is 50 meters, it should be no more than 25 kilometers per hour. And, of course, no overtaking in the fog. Night and morning fogs are especially dangerous when you can't see the road without headlights. And then there's the white shroud. It would seem that the high beam should penetrate it with its power, but no. The high beam has an almost horizontal orientation. Its beam is located above the low beam, and therefore it is reflected from small water droplets, preventing us from seeing the road. We turn on the low beam, and if our car is equipped with fog lights, then we use them. For better visibility of our car for those driving in the back, we turn on the fog lights. Their red brain-blowing light will be clearly visible to other drivers. In addition, fog forms condensation, settling on the relatively warm windows of the car, and visibility becomes even worse. If we can remove water from the windshield with windscreen wipers, then the side and rear windows simply become opaque, and they can also fog up. In this case, you will have to turn on the interior and rear window heating and ensure that the side windows are blown. In fog, you can lose your bearings on the road. The signs are covered with fog. Even intersections can be passed by without noticing. Therefore, in the absence of markings marking the boundaries of the lanes, you should stick to the edge of the roadway, taking the sidewalk or curb as a guideline. But what you really shouldn't do is move too close to the center line separating oncoming traffic. Fog helps to deceive the eye. The distance to objects seems to be greater than it actually is, so you need to increase the distance. In such a situation, it is dangerous to navigate by the lights of a moving car. Our idea of the distance to it and its speed will be erroneous. Fog in the lowlands is very dangerous. It is on such a site that other cars and pedestrians may not be visible at all. On roads outside populated areas, drivers sometimes sound an alarm when driving in dense fog. It is very important to respond to this signal. Therefore, it is better to keep the driver's side window ajar. In addition, fog affects the psyche. Constant tension, sudden emerging from the fog of other vehicles or pedestrians, tired eyes. Take care of your own and other people's lives. Do not put it in danger. Once again, where does the fog go? Any fog dissipates after warming up the air with sunlight, under the influence of which the smallest misty water droplets evaporate and turn back into steam, and all the pollutants settle on the surface, over which a foggy pall has recently spread.